Hello, welcome back. So today it's Wednesday afternoon, end of November, and it is beautiful outside. It's 50 degrees, which is a rarity here in North Dakota. But we're inside painting. So today's tutorial is going to be how to do a palette knife mountain. There are a couple of ways to do mountains, obviously. One is a palette knife, the other one is a brush, and I'm going to show you the difference here in just a sec. So these are brush mountains. So brush mountain, I used a paintbrush to do these mountains. Everything on this mountain is a paintbrush. There's nothing wrong with paintbrush mountains, they're just not my favorite. They're a lot more work to get your detail in just right and things like that. So I'm a sucker for a palette brush. A palette knife. So palette knife mountains it is. So today for our colors, I did a Prussian blue and white, titanium white background, threw in a few clouds just for fun. As I mentioned in a previous video, you know, having a couple of clouds up there for your viewer to look at is never a bad thing. So next thing we want to do is just kind of have an idea of where we want our mountains. Rule number one with mountains is you never do two side by side equal, because they look like two breasts, and that's considered to be a newbie mistake and not something you want to do. So I have titanium white, I've got Prussian blue, I have raw umber, sap green, and ivory black. So I've been working on another project today, so I've already got some of them mixed. But the first thing you want to do is just take a little bit of every color. I like to put green. I know it sounds strange to put green in a mountain, but putting that green in there will also help to put a little green, so when you bring your green out down here, there's a flow. So a little blue, put that in here, a little brown, and a little black. So I'm going to get kind of dark right away, but we're going to lighten it up. You'll see what I mean. A common mistake is if you make your mountain too dark, what happens is when you put your foreground in, your mountain will hide the trees in the foreground because your mountain is so dark. So we're going to try really hard to not have an overly dark mountain. And I'm putting this kind of up high today because I want to have some sort of a landscape of some kind down here. Basically, you're just going to kind of put in your lines where you want your mountain to be for starters. Just for starters. So like I mentioned to you before, you don't want them directly side by side, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. But you're just going to kind of lay it in. This takes practice. I swear it took me forever to kind of find that magic palette knife. Using the palette knife takes time, it takes practice. Nothing wrong with covering up our clouds. We're going to pretend like our mountains are way up high. So we're going to go ahead and do that. When I mean a side-by-side mountain, I mean you don't want a peak here and a peak here. You can have a peak here, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, where do we want to go? I kind of hate to cover up my cloud completely, but we might. So these are going to kind of be in the background, so we're going to be very careful. I know that this is really dark right now, but we're going to be kind of cautious about getting these too terribly dark, because I want us to see the trees. I want to see the evergreens and things like that up front that I'm going to put in here later. The other thing, I covered this with all blue. The reason I did that is because couple reasons. One, I don't have to decide at the time of doing my sky where my skyline's going to be. And number two, if I want water, I've already got a similar blue down here. Because remember, water is not blue naturally, right? It's clear. And so when you see blue water in a picture or out in a field outside, it's the reflection of the sky. So you wanted to have a similar blue. That is also a newbie mistake, is putting different colors of blue, which if you look at my earlier work, you'll say, yep, that was one of Carla's earlier pieces. So I'm going to just go ahead and cover up this cloud a little bit, just because it's a pretty cloud, but it's all right. So you don't have to be real picky about it right now. Right now we're just kind of laying down some foundation on where we want our mountain to be. Okay. You can do a lot of fun things with the mountain. We can give it ridges, you know, have it kind of come down at an angle, and you can do lots and lots of different fun things with the mountain once you kind of get good at playing with them. And it's just a matter of bringing out that paper and just, you know, just sit down and play. There's nothing right or wrong, you know, and that's the thing we sometimes get stuck on, is it's got to be right, it's got to be perfect, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Nope. This is art. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can say Carla said so. Carla said I don't have to be perfect. Yeah. So, all right, so now that we kind of got our idea of a mountain, and I kind of created a horizon line there in a roundabout way, I'm going to take one of my brushes that I was using earlier and I'm just going to draw it down. Just going to fill it in, bring it down. You know, it depends on how far down you want to bring your mountain. It's all about what you're in the mood for at the time. At least that's the way I do it. Whatever it feels right, I do. So the other thing we have to decide as we go along here, and I didn't really make a decision on my clouds either. I might put in a light source on my clouds later too, we'll see. But we have to decide on a light source. Where is our light? Is it here? Is it here? You really don't necessarily want it coming directly down. The problem with it coming down directly is that you kind of lose the ability to have a nice, pretty shadow. And you want a shadowing in your mountains. You want to have some concept of, this is the sun hitting the mountain and this is the shady side. So that's what we're doing first. So then you can just take this and, you know, kind of put in some color down here if you feel like it. Now, if you watch Bob Ross makes this all, once he's done with the mountain itself, he does a lot of fog or mist down under here, and that creates a distance for the mountain, which is actually a really smart idea, but we're not going to do that right now. Maybe later. So I'm going to try to go light, even though it looks like I'm really dark right now, and I'll show you how we're going to lighten this up nicely. Oh, light source. I think we're going to come in this way. All right, so I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and I don't like that right there. Okay. So once I've got all of that straightened out, now we're going to lighten it up. I'm going to take a little white from up here, and I'm just going to mix it into this stuff that I just was using, okay? You can always darken things up later. You have lots of time to darken stuff up. There's nothing right or wrong about this. So then you just kind of start laying it in. Tap it in, just lightly. Start laying it in. It's really hard to get in your head that all these little spots are supposed to be there. Sometimes the perfectionist in me is like, oh, it doesn't look right there. But that's actually where it's supposed to be. And if you look at a mountain, if you look at painted mountains, if you look at mountains out in Colorado or Montana, a lot like this too. They're not perfect either. Now sometimes they look uniform because of the way the sun is hitting it. You know, you might lose some of this color, but today we don't want to lose our color. And so I'm going to kind of keep them. I'm also going to kind of keep a lot of my coloring in here today, just because I want to create, might have some water and some other fun things down here later. And I don't really want to ruin that concept by bringing it down. Now, I'm using the long end. When you start getting picky though, I will sometimes flip it over and use the shorter end when I feel like it, like right now. And what you do is you just, so basically, just to review this, what you're doing is you're making a nice, it's marbled, and we want it marbled, okay? And then you're taking the end of your palette knife and you're just getting a little teeny tiny bit of paint on there. Oh, golly. So we're gonna create another peak in here. I think I'm gonna wait on the peak. We're gonna put a peak in there in a minute. I'm gonna darken this up so we can work on the back of the mountains quick before we get any further. So this is the part that put a little bit of color, a little bit of lightness, you know, a little bit of hint of some light. Obviously, we don't want it totally black. You just kind of lay it on there. So I'm going to show you another trick that I have. So I got this really handy PVC pipe that my sweet husband put together for me so that I can rest my hand on it and I can be more in control when I do this. So basically you're just making little streaks. So you can put as much paint on this sucker as you want. I personally find that the more paint you put on it, the longer it takes for it to dry. I don't use a lot of paint on my pictures. In fact, I probably don't use enough, if you want to know the truth. But that's me. I don't like to wait 6 months, a year, for something to dry. So I'm just creating a little texture. That's the whole purpose here, is that I'm creating some texture on the back side of the mountain. And I'm going to show you what else we're going to do with it here in a minute. So just giving it a little texture. All right. Little concept that there's something going on on the back of this mountain. Doesn't need to be perfect. We have to have some idea. Something's going on back there. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can add more white to this to give them the hint of some clouds, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to rest my hand and I'm going to create a peak. Hope you're seeing all of this. You can create as many peaks and valleys and this and that you want. There is no right or wrong. Remember, Carla said so. Okay. So now we got to give this guy a back because we've created a little bit of a ridge here. So now we got to give him some back. And so we're going to go to our darker colors for that. And we're just going to put those in. Now, if you really want to make a statement on the backs of your mountain, you'll use more black. And that's what I'm going to do. I want to make a little bit of a statement. The other thing is bringing it up here like so. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm bringing that mountain over here. I don't know if you can see that well or not, but I'm also giving this guy a ridge by bringing it in closer, okay? Now we can take this guy. We can give this guy a little bit of a... he's just kind of coming down. Now, you can create a little depth to this by going in here and putting a little black. Oops. Take the time to do it right. Take your time. So by doing that, I'm creating a lift. So you see there's a lift here. And we can do the same thing over here. You see this here. Creating a little bit of a drop. Okay. So he's kind of coming out. So what you could do if you were so inclined, you could create a little bit of a mist in here, which we might do yet. It's a mist just up in here. And that'll kind of give you that sense that it's up higher and kind of covered. Be really pretty. But right now I'm just putting in some black highlights. Giving this guy an edge. There we go. Hope you can see this. Okay. Just bringing it down a bit. Now you can bring it up this way if you want. No, just like that. Now, if you want to create ridges within the sun side, for example, say you want maybe we want it to look like there's peaks and valleys on our sun side, you just take a little black and you create a ledge in the white. And you know, this takes time. It takes time to find what works for you. What works for me may not work for you as well. Okay, so I changed my mind. We're gonna add a little snow, just for effect. So we're gonna get a little titanium white, pure white, on our palette knife here. Touch it in. See, look at that. Snowing up there. There we go. So this gives it a little bit of definition, a little bit of a little something else to look at. Bring that snow down a little bit if you feel like it. So then you're like, okay, well, you got all this snow on one side. How are we gonna put some snow on the other side? So we're gonna do that with some blue. So if you notice, we're gonna do blue and white. And we're gonna just create a little bit of a hint. So snow, like water, reflects light. So same idea. We got a little blue in there. Okay. And it also will reflect the sky. There we go. I'm just putting a hint of some blue. We're not going to go overboard here. Okay. Just a little bit because we want to even him out a little here. Don't want him to feel alone. Like he doesn't have any snow. Okay. All right. So that is a very basic but meaningful, purposeful mountain. It's strong, it's majestic in its appearance, and it's done simply without going overboard. Like I told you, you can go as big and bold as you choose to with your mountains. You can have just one big mountain on here and that's all there is, and a few trees. I mean, if that's what you want to do. But for today, I chose not to go overboard. You can add some browns, you can add some more, you can add a little red in it even, you know, red and brown, or red and blue, to make it kind of a purple, a little bit of a purple if you choose to. There's a lot of different things you can do with this, but we're going to stop. Okay, so being I said something about mist, I've got to do some mist. Okay, so I used this earlier. I'm just gonna rub this off. I do this before I paint, before I clean my brushes too. This is just a cleaning hack. If you get the worst of your paint off, obviously you've got less paint to clean off of your brush. So we're gonna live wild and dangerously here. And we're gonna get kind of big and bold with our, this is gonna get loud. I wanna show you real quick what I'm doing. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a darker white. Instead of going straight into my white and going nuts, I'm going to go do just kind of a grayish mist to start with and just kind of lay out where I want my mist. Now, if you want to be really good about this, let me do one more thing before I get wild and crazy. We'll put a little trees, couple little trees in here. Put the hint of some trees. So I took a little brown, a little bit of this green, which I don't have much left, darn it. Let's get some more, it's worth the wait. Okay. All right, so I want the hint of the trees. I don't want to go nuts on these, but I do want to put a little hint of something. So we're going to put a little green, a little brown, a little white, because I don't want to go nuts. I don't want it to be really dark. Ooh, that's kind of pretty, isn't it? Green. There we go. So this is a fan brush. It's just a little cheapie I found. Maybe you want to put a hint of something here. Now, that's awfully light, I know. But I'm doing that on purpose because I don't want to lose, I don't want to have a bunch of dark stuff back here when I go to put my other trees in. I want my trees in the foreground to stand out. So, take a little green over here. We'll do the same thing. Maybe we'll do just a hint. Just the hint of something. Hope you can see all this. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically putting it at an angle and just pressing. Just a little clump of trees here. Just the hint of something. I think I'll have them disappear off the side of the canvas here. Okay. I want to show you, this is why we have our blue all over, is because you can see blue behind this. Now, if I were just, just had done blue in certain spots, we might have missed this opportunity to have some blue in the background, and so we want that. So, okay, onward, here we go. Mist. Okay. It's gonna get loud. Not loud. So you can kind of see how I'm using this to kind of lay up. Now I can kind of decide where I want to go with this, right? Now I purposely chose like a gray white right here, and for the sole purpose of being able to add some highlights in that white later. We'll make it more white later. This is just the beginning. So this is kind of hinting up into the mountain, right? That it's billowing. Maybe it's a billowing kind of a mist. And I'm not going to go into the green yet because I don't really want to introduce green at this juncture. So we're going to save that for last. Okay. usually in the past when I've done this, it's been loud. I don't know why it's not that loud today, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring that mist over here. And this is just the hint of some trees, right? We want the hint that there's something in the mist. Now, if you want to get wild and crazy, you can add something else too. Maybe add one here. There we go. Add a couple in here. Okay. And then as we go across it, it'll look like it's in the mist. See that? So, one could argue that you want more white in it, which you technically do, but it's really hard to get white when you're trying to, if you're doing wet on wet, it's really hard to get white out of this. You're gonna be tapping for a long time. So, we're not gonna worry about it. So, we're almost done with today's tutorial. Actually, I think I'm gonna cover these up a little more. Okay. So we chose to do a lighter color of green in here because the further away it is, the lighter you want it. You want your darker stuff up toward the front, and then, you know, that way we can have, maybe we can have an evergreen. These may not even show up. Same with this one over here. We may have an evergreen here, but I wanted to at least show you how to do that if you want to introduce those in there. At least you know how to do it. I'm just going to give these guys a hint because I think it looks a little bare. Okay. It's just the hint. So, I'm gonna add a little more white. Just basically tapping it in. Just kiss it. Just barely kiss it. Don't push too hard. Just a little bit. Just to kind of smooth it out. So if you want to get wild and crazy, you can add a little more white to it. I don't know, I kind of feel like we need a little more white. There we go. So the next thing we need to do, you know, in planning our picture, what I'll probably do next is maybe put some trees down in here and, you know, kind of bring it around. Like I said, I might do a lake or something like that here. I haven't really decided, but there you are. How to do a palette knife mountain simply. This isn't overly extensive, but you've got an idea. So I hope you learned something. Have a great day.